In this edition of Check It Out, scientists across the world have rejected the lab virus theory propagated by the U.S. government. But how exactly did it come to this conclusion? A new planet being born. Astronomers say they are seeing some evidence of this at about 520 light years from Earth. And a research team in the UK says it has found the anti-pain center in the brain of mice.
Well, the US says it's looking into what many have called a conspiracy theory.
You might have heard the conspiracy theories spreading on social media about how the coronavirus started. This kinds of misinformation have been left off by politicians, claiming the virus was secretly manufactured in a lab to be used as the bioweapon or leaked by mistake. But if you want to understand the origin of a new virus, I cannot figure out anyone more authoritative than a scientist, or any approach more valuable than a purely scientific analysis. So let's check out how researchers have ruled out lab manipulation as the potential origin. Shortly after the epidemic began, Chinese scientists sequenced the entire genome of the novel coronavirus and made the data available to researchers worldwide. That's what scientists have relied on to find out the origin of virus. A research paper published in Nature Medicine compared the genomic features of SARS-CoV-2 with all of its closest family members, including SARS and strains isolated from animals such as bats and pangolins. If someone wants to artificially create a new virus to infect people, what they need to do above all is to give it the ability to get into other cells. That doesn't mean, of course, that any virus which can do that is man-made. In the case of the coronavirus, this ability comes from the spike protein, armatures on the outside of the virus that it uses to grab and penetrate the outer walls of human cells. If it turns out that those spikes are something naturally created, the conspiracy could be overturned. Scientists have focused on some important features of the spike protein that have raised suspicions of being man-made. The first one is the receptor binding domain, or RBD, a kind of grappling hook that grips onto the receptor of host cells, or you may think of it as the key clicking into a lock. Genetic sequencing shows that some of the amino acids that constitute this key have experienced some mutation, improving the virus' ability to bind on to receptors of human cells in a firmer way than other viruses in its family, which means is more infectious. So, could this be a result of genetic engineering? Scientists soon found that a mutation in the same position can also be found in viruses detected in wild animals like pangolins and bats. In other words, this mutation could be naturally involved. Of course, we cannot completely rule out the possibility that the virus originated from a lab. Scientists have put out a second line of argument, offering a kind of reverse thinking. Research published at the end of January examined the receptor of human cells, or the lock the virus wants to open. Based on the structure of the lock, the computer can predict the shape of a key that perfectly fits. But it is not exactly what we observed in the novel coronavirus. That means that although the novel coronavirus combines strongly with the human receptor, this interaction isn't optimal. If you could manipulate the virus and you know what a perfect virus looks like, why would you make something less than perfect? After all, bioweapon designer would want maximum impact of virus. The researchers say those subtle flaws indicative of natural selection constitute strong evidence against man-made origins. Scientists have also located a unique sequence in the novel coronavirus that is not found in other members of this family. This specific sequence is coded for a special structure that scientists called glycan, which may be responsible for making the virus more infectious. So, can this piece of sequencing be artificially inserted? Scientists also reject that speculation. Instead, They say the glycan that created by this extra sequence suggests the novel coronavirus encounter a living immune system rather than being cultivated in the petri dish. The long and short of it is that scientists believe someone seeking to engineer a new coronavirus would have constructed from the backbone of a known virus. But sequencing shows that SARS-CoV-2's backbone differs substantially from those of already known pathogenic coronaviruses. So the evidence points to Mother Nature as the source, not a lab.
Welcome to Science Saturday. I'm Kasturi Manikam. Today we look at science news ranging from a new planet to global carbon emissions. Astronomers get a first look at a new planet about 520 light years away from the Earth. Images show a dense disk of dust and gas near a young star named AB Aurigae. The disk also displays a spiral structure with a twist that scientists say indicates the beginnings of a new planet. The leading researcher says it could be a large gas planet, one potentially more massive than Jupiter. China's first plateau-focused unmanned helicopter makes its maiden flight. The AR-500C took off at an aviation base in eastern China's Jiangxi province last Wednesday. It's capable of conducting reconnaissance missions, communication relay, electronic disruption, and fire strike at high altitudes. The helicopter can take off at an elevation of 5,000 meters with a maximum speed of 170 kilometers an hour. Analysts say the versatile drone can enhance the country's ability in safeguarding the southwestern borders. Scientists have found a brain center that shuts down pain. This small area of the brain was found in mice. When the animals felt pain, they licked their paws or wiped their faces. But when researchers switched on a light to activate the animals' Siaga neurons, they found it stopped such behavior as it no longer felt pain. Experts say the findings can provide insights into the further development of anesthetics. A silver lining amid the coronavirus pandemic. A recent study shows global carbon emissions per day in April were 17% lower than the average daily emissions in 2019. Experts say this is primarily due to the disruptions to ground transportation and industry. They say the world could still see a 7% drop in carbon emissions even as confinement measures are being relaxed. The research was published in Nature Climate Change journal.